I've already mentioned something that I consider has been touched in a significant way given the pandemic, Doug, which is the organizational culture. In in these times, how do you see that the organizational culture has changed and how we can build up what is needed to face the current challenges around the world?
Well, Mauricio, that's a challenge that yes, all of us are facing. And recently I was talking with some other executives and we all agreed that worldwide, regardless of your age, regardless of your company size, everyone is suffering from midlife crisis. Midlife crisis meaning I'm going to change my life, I'm going to live my values, I'm going to do things that matter to me. So to answer your question, Mauricio, organizations have to make sure that their cultural values express empathy toward their employees, express empathy toward their clients, their customers, their patients, because everyone is so tired. They really gravitate towards an organization, a store, a business that is technically proficient, yes, and they add that empathetic component of really caring about their employees and their customers. And I would think that post-COVID, that empathetic, caring, trusting environment is going to help organizations differentiate from their competition.
Great. What is the best way to choose the values of an organization, Doc?
Well, Francisco, that's an interesting question. And let me answer a little bit differently. I see a lot of organizations that spend a lot of time and energy and money creating values. And they might be really good values, but where there are so many problems is leadership, ownership, executives, managers are not living and breathing those values every single day. So I would rephrase that by saying, choose the values that reflect your company, choose the values that your employees embrace, choose the values that your clients and your customers embrace. But most importantly is once you have chosen the values and you've written your mission statements and your vision statements, make sure that your leaders and owners and supervisors are a living example of those values. I'll give you an example. Walt Disney said before Disneyland ever opened, I want our parks to be so clean that people feel comfortable eating food from the street. Well, of course, he wasn't expecting people to eat from the street, but when Walt Disney walked through Disneyland, going to or from meetings or simply enjoying the park, he would always pick up trash that he found on the ground. So he was a living example of that value of cleanliness. So again, your values are your choice, but make sure you live them and breathe them and you're consistent and sincere with those values. And leaders are always being watched, and employees and vendors and customers will believe a leader's actions more than his or her words. So I'll give you a specific example of leadership living the value. I was doing a job for a huge store that sells all kinds of products. And I was walking through the store with one of their executives and I asked him a question about a product. He didn't have the answer. And I said, well, why don't you take out your phone and Google it and let me know? And he said, no phones are allowed in the store for employees. All employees have to put their phones in a special locker in the break room. And he said, think about it, Doug, if I took out my phone right now as the leader of this company, that would completely undermine our value of no phones on the floor, no phones in the store, because that would take away from connectivity with our customers. So he said to me, Doug, you're not an employee, so why don't you take out your phone and you Google it? And interestingly, Mauricio, this store that I worked for is nationwide in the United States, and that value is so strong about no phones in the store that they are tremendously successful having great conversations with customers, and they don't have the problem of their employees' faces buried in their phones all the time because their phones are in the break room.
Very